Next up, we have Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa, who is a really interesting player for the sole fact that he's one of the rare guys, I would say, that, just about everybody seems to agree on the quality of his film, right? If we're solely talking about Linderbaum's ability to execute what's asked of him on a play-to-play basis, I think pretty much everyone is coming out and giving him the thumbs up, right? They're all impressed. And with that being said, you'd think, oh, well, he's a lock for the top 10, top 15, top 20, whatever it is. But then on the flip side of that, you have the fact that Linderbaum came in at the combine and measured in at 6'2", 296 pounds with 31.125 inch arms. And then that begs the question, which a lot of people are asking, and a lot of people are concerned about, perhaps rightly so. It's, yes, we saw all this great stuff in college on tape, but will it translate against the, biggest, fastest, strongest athletes in the world that the NFL level possesses? And that's an interesting question, because there will be matchups. You got to remember, the defense, they're putting their flat out biggest guy right head up on Tyler Linderbaum, whether it's as a nose tackle, one technique, whatever it is. That guy's going up against a Linderbaum on a play-to-play basis. So if that guy has a 40, 50-pound weight advantage on him, I could see where that's concerning, But at the same time, on the flip side, I think that Linderbaum's size and, just his general stature, his athletic profile, I think that even though he is small, I think that there are almost advantages to being small. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here as we get going. As for me personally, I gave him a very low size grade. I gave him a 1.75 out of 5. And that's, with that, he still has one of the highest grades of anybody I've given. So, just for reference, the size is a concern. It's something I've realized, in my grade. But overall, it's something that I'm probably less worried about than most. As, kind of what I was saying in terms of the advantages of his size and more notably just his athletic profile in general, it's the fact that he can get anywhere he wants to get on the field, right? And, as somebody who, I hate to talk about myself in these videos, but as somebody who, was an offensive lineman for 17 years, like, so much of being in the trenches and being able to execute well in the trenches is the ability to get good angles, right? And that a lot of that is in your initial footwork, right? Do you have the quickness and the accuracy with your feet to put yourself in position to carry out the required block? Linderbaum, I don't want to say 10 out of 10, but very, very impressive in that regard. He's one of the very few guys that I've seen as of late that can just, seamlessly block a 3 technique from the center position. So, for those who can't picture this, I know some people would probably supply film. We don't have time for that. Just imagine you have your center, you have your guard, and then between your guard and tackle, you have a defender. Linderbaum can reach that guy, right? So he can get to that guy's outside shoulder. And that is that's a rare, I can't even put it into words how rare that is. And Linderbaum's able to do it on a rather consistent basis, which is by and large in part due to not only his quickness, but that quick first step, and then the ability to know how much ground he has to give up initially with those early steps to get where he wants to go, right? Because if you take a really flat angle, hopefully you guys are visualizing this as I'm saying it. If you take a really flat angle, that guy's first step is forward. So you're just going to kind of miss him, right? It's going to be 2 ships passing in the night while that guy goes and tackles your running back in the backfield. But if you are giving up ground, you're going to intercept him. Yeah, hopefully you guys are seeing what I'm saying. You're going to intercept him by the time he is maybe a step or 2 into the backfield. And by that time, Linderbaum already has the ability to be around you. And in that regard, that's very rare, very impressive. My first note is very fluid athlete in terms of ability to climb to the second level as well as work angles inside. I gave him a 9.5 out of 10 on mobility. Just very, very impressive there. In terms of the pass pro, I gave him a 17.25 out of 25. Again, I thought the footwork was great. I thought his hand fighting was good, right? A good initial punch at times, but then Other times, what you would see is some of these defensive, tackles and even a couple plays linebackers. It felt like initially, like that first strike of contact, it felt like Linderbaum could give up a little bit too much ground at times. Where if you only watch the rep for 2 steps, let's say, it looks like Linderbaum's about to get driven right into the quarterback's lap. And luckily, what I think he's able to do, in part due to his height and his size, is he does a really good job of reestablishing and regaining leverage and actually recovering on those reps and winning those reps, right? So even though it looks like he loses that initial that at the initial contact point, we'll say, he's able to recover and win because I think, like I said, he has sort of a natural leverage built into him. A lot of these interior defensive linemen, they're just taller than him. A lot of them are heavier than him, so they maybe struggle getting down nearly as low as him. So Linderbaum's kind of like a wedge between them and the quarterback, and it's tough to break that wedge, if that makes any sense. I'm not entirely sure, but he just has a natural leverage about him that he's able to reestablish leverage with and ultimately sit on these reps in enough time for the quarterback to get rid of the ball. I thought it was rather impressive. And another big reason that he was able to do so well in terms of reestablishing leverage and winning the reps was because of his competitiveness. That was another thing. I have oozing with competitiveness as one of my notes, right? Just a really tough player, really high motor player. And I think in that regard, he's the type of guy that could maybe go... I hate saying this because this is such a subjective thing, but just watching his film, he feels like the type of guy that could really help aid the culture of a particular place. It's hard if you're the guard or tackle or really anybody on the team and you're just doing your run-of-the-mill positional duties, but then say on a running play where the running back gets tackled 35 yards downfield, you have Linderbaum running into the frame and helping him up, right? It's hard to watch guys doing that and then kind of look in the mirror and be like, well, why am I not doing that? So I think Linderbaum, even as a rookie, I think he's going to kind of elevate the play of everybody else, if that makes sense. And especially, what I would say later in his career, probably as he assumes more of a leadership role wherever he goes, I think there is some potential value there. I think he'd be a really interesting guy in that regard to talk to in terms of the combine interviews. I feel like he's the type of guy that teams could really fall in love with. And like I said, other teams, they'll be scared of the size. I think on the flip side, he'll probably go pretty early because I wouldn't be shocked if somebody falls in love with him. I didn't have a ton of other negatives. In terms of just my grades, 8 out of balance and leverage, 9.5 out of physicality and finishing, 8.25 out of IQ and awareness. One of the things I did want to talk about there really quickly was at times he would be a split second late in terms of identifying blitzes and stunts. Not the worst thing in the world, because I think that's something you can get better at with time. You just have to, have your spidey senses tingling, right? You have to be tuned into what the defense is trying to do. I'm curious if maybe Linderbaum is so worried about that initial matchup and that initial contact against the opposing DTs that maybe sometimes reacting to it, he's not necessarily as fast. Not that he's not fast, but not as fast as some of the other guys that we've seen, hence the 8.25. Otherwise, as I said already, 9.5 out of 10 on mobility, 1.75 out of 5 on size, which, again, really, without that size concern, he might be the number 1 overall player on my board. And then 4.5 out of 5 on athleticism, came out to an 84.25. Add in the center position premium, which for me is 3%, 86.78 if you round up with Tyler Linderbaum. So with that being said, I think he is a guy that I would feel pretty comfortable, taking. I haven't scouted everybody, but as of right now, he certainly has a top 10 grade for me. So I am definitely a fan. But if you were a fan of this video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff as always. So that way you're in the loop with my future uploads. Because for today, I'm mic'd up, now I'm mic'ing out. Peace, guys. See you next time.